Nutnfancy reviewing the Springfield XD9. I've had a lot of requests from my subscribers to review this gun. They're like, dude, you got to check out the XD. It's so awesome. And I think it is a good design. It really is. There's a lot that it has to offer. However, I do feel that the entire XD series is pretty much a ripoff of the Glock series. I thought that when they originally came out. And the question I always ask when a gun is so similar to the original is, how does the XD beat the Glock? In a nutshell, I'm just going to tell you right off that it does not. That's my opinion based on my own experiences and my own trigger time with the XD. But that doesn't mean that it is not a good pistol. The XD is a very good pistol, and I'm going to prove it as such as I go down these talking points. So if you're an XD fan, try not to be brand myopic, but I'm going to keep it real and tell you that it in some ways is inferior to the Glock. First, let's start off by philosophy of use. POU, that's a Nutnfancy term. How do I envision this gun to be used? Well, this is a full-size 9mm XD. It comes in other calibers, 40, 45. I always choose 9mm because I think it's size efficient. It gets the job done with the right loading and a fair amount of marksmanship. And I like to use the 9 because that way I can compare it against my standard, the Glock 17. They're both the same caliber, full-size, service-type pistols. And that's what this is. This isn't a concealed carry option unless you're masochistic and you want to carry a very bulky and large gun with you, which you'll do for a couple months, and you'll just quit carrying altogether, in my experience. So you'd be a lot better served to have a subcompact gun to carry, maybe a CAR PM9, PM40, Keltec PF9, Robar, whatever you want. But this is a little bit big. This is a holster gun, kind of along the order of a police sidearm. And, you know, I don't really even know. I probably should have looked a little better if there's some police agencies that use the XD. There very well might be. It is reliable enough, generally speaking, that it could serve as such. So POU, sidearm, holster variety. Weight, this is one area where the XD comes in a distant second, in my opinion, to the Glock 17. The Glock weighs 25 ounces. 25.2 to be exact. This 9mm XD9 weighs 28.2. It's a full 3 ounces heavier. I don't mind the extra weight as long as it gives us something in return, whether I'm talking about knives, backpacks, guns, flashlights, doesn't matter. What does the XD give us that the Glock does not for the additional 3 ounces? Nothing, really, truth be told. It doesn't give you anything. In fact, it gives you less rounds compared, and I'll talk about that in firepower, less sighting radius, and a little bit more complexity. So weight, I think, is kind of a miss with the XD series. It's a polymer frame pistol, and for crying out loud, let's make it 25 ounces or lighter. I showed you in my review of the FNP series by FN Herstal that they did it. They came at 25 ounces. I'm not sure why the XD weighs as much as it does. Not good. The XDM, as in Mike, stands for the marksmanship model. I think that didn't do anything to solve the weight issue either. I still think it's a heavy gun. How about firepower for the XD9? Well, like I mentioned briefly, is it comes in second to the Glock. 16 versus 19. So it's down 3 rounds. Now, that being said, let's put it in perspective. I think any magazine for a full-size 9mm service pistol over 15 rounds is adequate. However, if given a choice, I like options. More rounds means more options, and the SR9 by Ruger is a good example. I mention that a lot because it got a lot right. There's a 17-round magazine from the SR9. So they did a pretty good job with that one. So I'm not sure why the SD couldn't do that. So firepower, definitely second place to the Glock 17. Plus the Glock 17 can take 33 round magazines from its sibling, the Glock 18 machine pistol. So that's kind of cool. So if you're a military law enforcement user, firepower, actually even a civilian sheepdog, firepower could be an issue. But it's adequate, but second place to Glock. Durability and reliability. Well, in my trigger time on the Springfield XD, and it's not a ton, but I've always found them to be reliable. I am hearing some rumors that the XD series is developing some reliability problems when faced with thousands and thousands of rounds. Kind of like Chuck Taylor's test of the Glock 17 with, I don't even know how many he ended up with, 200,000 rounds fired. But I even hate to mention it because I haven't verified it. But I'll just, I don't know, mention it. just by way of reference. And the reason I do so is because I cannot paint a Glock-like reliability picture from the things I've been hearing. And this comes from some buddies of mine that own the XD. Okay, and they're the ones telling me this. So just a note. Durable, reliable, yeah, definitely for the most part. Is it as reliable as the Glock series? Time will tell. Hard to say. How about accuracy? I'm going to say it's slightly less accurate than the Glock series in my shooting. When I shoot the XD, it's just a little bit less accurate than the Glock. And that's just me shooting. Your mileage may vary. You may say, well, I've shot both of them and the XD blows away the Glock. Well, on this talking point, it's just my mileage. You know, the Glock is, I just shoot it better. Maybe it's just me, but I'm talking shooting it from a rest too, that the XT is just a little less accurate. Now, let's put that in perspective though. Anytime we talk about combat accuracy with a sidearm, a service pistol, the differences even between an inch, maybe an inch and a half, at 25 yards is kind of negligible. It really doesn't mean a lot, because as long as you can get them, I guess a lot of guys say as long as you get them in a 5-inch circle at 25 yards, you're good. I want more. I want 3 inches or less from my gun, because an accurate gun is an interesting gun, pistols included. That's just me. So I would say the XD series, XD9, is accurate for intended purpose. Enough said. Ergonomics. And I don't want to sound negative. I think it's a very comfortable gun. The XD is. But I prefer the Ergos on the 17, the Glock series altogether over that. One thing I do not like on the XD is the grip safety. I mean, and this gets to my simplicity talking point. Why do we need this? You know? And we always need to ask ourselves, okay, how is it better than a Glock? You know, and there are some designs in some respects that are better than a Glock. Maybe ergonomics, maybe grip angle, which I've talked to in other videos. There are things that you can beat a Glock in. Glock is not all that. You know, price. The Ruger SR9 beats the Glock in price. It's a higher value gun than the Glock. How does the XD9 beat the Glock? Well, doesn't in simplicity. I don't like grip safeties. I don't like them on a 1911. I don't like them on the XD. Now, you guys will say, well, if you hold the gun right, it's not a factor. Well, I know that. Dudes, I've been shooting for decades. I know that. But I don't like them. I just don't see the need for a grip safety. It's, to me, added complexity and nonsense. It's just ridiculous. It's like putting, and I leveled the criticism against the SR9, it's like putting this safety on the SR9 Ruger 9mm pistol when you have a safe action type trigger. Not needed. This is your safety. You don't need this. It's added complexity. Make your design as simple as possible. So, and that kind of gets into ergonomics just a little bit, is that you have a grip safety you need to worry about. Now, the grip angle on the XD is excellent. It's very 1911-ish, and it feels good in hand. Oh, that looks very much like a Glock trigger guard to me. Pretty much. In fact, it's almost identical. Squared off face, I don't mind that. I actually like it. You have an ability to take non-proprietary accessories on the rail. That's cool. Good serrations on the slide. There's no exterior controls that get in the way. All you have is a slide release, just like a Glock. There's no safeties needed because you have a safe action style trigger right here with a little safety paddle on it. Magazine release right where I'd want it to be, at the rear of the trigger guard, not like the USP proprietary one. Stippling on the back, very Glock-like. Almost identical. You can see why I say it's a ripoff on the Glock. It pretty much is. Little thumb indentations right here. Just like a Glock. This dude's got some decal grip in his, but yeah, thumb indentation. So very Glock-like, with exception of the grip angle, which is more 1911-ish. The slide, very Glock-like, squared off. So ergonomics, if you like a Glock, you're going to like the XD for the most part. However, one big hit on the XD design is the barrel sits higher above your hand than a Glock. The bore axis is higher. Therefore, follow-up shots, theoretically speaking, will be slower, and you'll have more recoil. And I can kind of confirm that from the rounds I fired. It seems like it does have a little bit more muzzle flip than a Glock. Granted, a 9mm, not a factor. You go to a 40, 45, more of a factor. You can see that the Glock 17 sits lower in your hand versus a Springfield XD, that slides a lot higher. It's got more of a moment arm to flip it for recoil. Moving right along, ergonomics. So I would say ergonomics are good. Glock beats it though, still, for the reasons noted. Unless you're big on the grip angle. If you're big on that grip angle and the 1911 grip angle versus the more rackish Glock angle, then you might like an XD better. And truth be told, I do prefer a 1911 grip angle. But in a Glock 17, I get so much more that for me it's not a showstopper, and I just train accordingly. So it's all about what you train with. Simplicity, I've already talked about the grip safety, totally unneeded. I'm not going to field strip it. The field strip's kind of like a SIG, actually. You rotate this lever, you retract slide, take the magazine out, and then you rotate this slide release into this groove here, and then it comes right across, or comes out. The barrel looks just like a Glock barrel, and there's steel rails that the slide rides on in the middle, and then the polymer ones are just in the rear, so that was a little bit odd. With a Glock, as I've shown you in many other videos, it's steel all the way along, forward and aft. But I'm not going to criticize that much, because heck, the Ruger P95, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't it ride on completely polymer frame rails? And they've proven that it's extremely durable after thousands and thousands of rounds. So very well could be the same case with the Springfield XD9. So simplicity, enough said on that. Accessories. A lot of accessories, and actually it's a high value gun in that respect. If I'm not mistaken, I think Springfield gives you like a holster and some other stuff, an extra magazine with your Springfield XD9. So that's high value. I like it. I like it when manufacturers give you a lot. And that's one thing I forgot to mention about the F&P9. I think they give you more than 2 magazines, definitely. High value is good, especially when the manufacturers give you more for your money. Very well done. As far as sights, I think there are indeed aftermarket sights for the XD. It has been around long enough for that. There's lots of holster options. Don't know too much about the trigger options or the magazine options. I think you're pretty much stuck with a factory mag. By the way, while we're there, again, criticism on the shiny magazine. I know it's slick and that it inserts and extracts well, but with a tactical pistol like this, who knows where this pistol could be going? Maybe it's serving in a theater of war somewhere. I don't want this glinting in the sunshine. Not good. I'd much rather prefer a blackened magazine. Same criticism I leveled against the FN Herstal F&P9. Had a stainless steel bright finish magazine. Not cool. At least they got the witness holes right though. You're counting them basically every other round. So nice job on that. Good floor plate on it too. No nonsense floor plate on the XD9. Very nice. Price, well, I think it's a high value gun. Today, Impact Guns is selling it for $475. I think that's in the ballpark. That puts it in the ballpark with the Glock and the F&P9. And it is above the Ruger SR9, but still, high value price, you bet. And I think it's a lot of pistol for the money, truth be told. For my money, I'd go with the Glock for the reasons I mentioned. That's just me. How about the track record? Well, time's marching on. We'll have to see what becomes of these long-term reliability issues with the XD9. It could be just a certain serial number, in other words, just a range of pistols. I don't know, don't have enough information. But please don't go off of that. I think the XD overall is extremely reliable. It has been in my shooting of it. Adequately accurate, ergonomic, maybe a little bit more complex than it needs to be. But overall, it's a very excellent gun. And I think it will compare favorably against most other offerings. But I still will remain with my criticism that it is a blatant ripoff of the Glock design in most respects, as I've noted. And if you want a Glock, buy a Glock. And the Glock does beat it in terms of weight, firepower, and simplicity. This is Nutnfancys' quick tabletop review of the Springfield XD9. Maybe in years to come or months to come, I'll show you some trigger time in the tactical shooting clinic if politics will allow it. Who knows what's coming in the future. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the good ratings and for subscribing. Nutnfancy out.